Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 40. To me, a director's job is to leave it in better shape than you found it. Literally. Steven Soderbergh.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my indie film hustlers, to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Don't forget to head over to freefilmbook.com. That's freefilmbook.com to download your free film audiobook from Audible. And today's show is sponsored by Filmmaking Hacks, how to shoot and market your first independent film. It is a course that I developed, and you can head over to indiefilmhustle.com/film school to get access to that. So guys, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what I've been doing lately before we get into the topic at hand today. I've been working on, I'm going to be working on courses for you guys. I've been getting a lot of requests from the tribe to create courses very specific to certain needs and wants that you guys have been asking me for. So one of them was social media, how I was able to generate over 24,000 followers within a 10-week period, doing it organically and doing it all on the up and up. Nothing shady or anything like that going on. So these are all real followers, real people who are interested in what I'm doing. So first course is going to be out in the next few weeks. Will be Twitter hacks, how to get 10,000 true fans in 10 weeks. And I will be talking more about that on the next episodes coming up in the weeks to come. There will be an early bird special that I'll give you guys. I'll give you an email to email that too, so I can give you guys some coupons and see what you guys think. But I've been working on it for a while now, and it is pretty badass, I have to say. It is, if I do say so myself. It really does break down exactly what I've been doing to get that access, and then how I'm able to generate traffic, how I'm able to generate leads from Twitter. And then the next one right after that will be Instagram hacks, how to generate 10,000 followers on Instagram within 10 weeks as well, which I was able to do as well. So, and of course, you could always check out those handles at Twitter. I'm at Indie Film Hustle, and on Instagram, I'm at iFilm Hustle. And there's a reason why it's not Indie Film Hustle, and I'll tell you that in the course. So anyway, just wanted you guys to know about that, and we'll be talking more about that as we move forward. So today, we're talking about when to work for free. Now, this is something is really a touchy subject because a lot of people are like, I'm not going to work for free. I'm worth more than that. I'm not going to whore myself out, and that's great. And I'm proud that you feel that way. But I'm going to tell you how I did it and how I do it and how I suggest other people do it. And I've seen other people do this as well. So when you're starting out in any business, specifically in the film business, you're going to work for free. You're going to intern. That's a way to get in. There's so much competition to get into the film industry in any aspect or any discipline of the film industry that for you to expect to be paid right out the gate is very unrealistic in today's world. So what I did is I started working for free as an intern at a production company in Miami right out of school. And I worked for free for about 3 to 4 months. And I drove an hour there and an hour back every day. That's my uphill in the snow barefoot story. And they paid for my gas, but that was it. I paid for everything else. Now, I was younger. I was living at home. I didn't have much overhead. And I was just trying to get my career off the ground. So I sat there and I worked, and I just was indispensable. And at a certain point, my boss quit. And when he quit, I got the job. And that's where my whole career started, going through that process. So when you're starting out, you have to work for free. You have to see what you're going to learn, though, because there's a lot of internships or a lot of jobs or movies or things like that you'll jump on to learn. And if they just have you running around doing coffee and crap, at a certain point, you have to do a little bit of that. But at a certain point, you got to learn something along the way. If not, it's not a real fair deal. Then if that's the case, then they should hire a PA to go do all those runs. But look, I did it. We all did it. There was a bunch of that kind of stuff. I was interning at Universal Studios in Florida while I was at school, and I had to drive a producer's. I basically moved the producer. He was moving, and I was brought in to help carry furniture. So that's a bit abusive, and at a certain point, you just got to go, this might not be what I'm looking for. But we all have to do it. We all have to kind of go through the trials and tribulations of working for free. But you have to ask yourself the question, what am I going to learn? What contacts can I get? And what can I leverage from this relationship? So, what I mean with that is like, let's say you get a job interning at a show. Let's say you're working on The Big Bang Theory as an intern. I'm just tossing that out there, and you're an intern on The Big Bang Theory. Well, because the Big Bang Theory, which is one of the biggest shows on television right now, is on your resume, it makes it so a little bit easier for you to get the next job. So that's where I would, and then you might do a little bit more grunt work at that job because the prestige of working at that place opens up doors. So you have to be smart about it. Now, if you're going to go work for free as an intern or just work for free for a production company that just opened up and it's two guys, fold out tables, no credits, no anything, and they expect you to do all this stuff for free, there's not really a lot, and you're not learning on top of that. And if you're teaching, they're teaching you a whole lot of stuff. That's one thing. But if you're not, what's the point? It's like you're just working for free, and that's not the point. If you're going to if you're going to exchange your labor and your time, you need to have something in return. If it's not money, then it has to be education. It has to be credits. It has to be something you can leverage or getting experience, that experience that you would never be able to get in any other way, or something that helps your resume, something else that will move you forward in the film industry. So I'll give you a couple of tips of things that I did after I started doing all the grunt work. So once I did all that, it opened up a lot of doors, having Universal Studios and having a bunch of shows as an intern. While I was at school, I already was interning at school. Like, so I was at school and I would, skip classes sometimes because I learned more on the set of working on professionals, backstage and all that kind of stuff, working as an intern than I ever did sometimes in a class about audio, which is another story altogether. But so I learned a lot doing those internships. Then once I got into the field and I started editing, so that's my path. My path was editing and learning that. I started to figure out what sometimes you get asked as an editor, what do you want to learn? Can you do this job for free? So when I got to LA, I was fresh off the boat, literally. And I literally just had my Final Cut system in my spare bedroom. And this is about 10 years ago now. And I was I knew three people in Los Angeles when I showed up. And I was asked to do a few, I started doing work and I started getting paid and stuff, but then I would get approached to do free jobs. So what I did was with free jobs that came in, I always analyzed them to see what they would be worth to me. If it's a free job, I'm like, oh, it's a free job with a short film that has no stars and has no anything that really I can leverage, or even if it's not beautiful, like beautiful footage. So let's say I've done some free jobs before that the footage is just so stunning that I knew it would do really well on my demo reel. So I would either give them a really good deal or I would do it for free. And I don't do any free jobs now, of course. But at the beginning, you have to start building up that resume, start building up those connections. So I would do free jobs for that purpose, for like really gorgeous footage. That was very rare, though. There was very rare stuff that I would get like that. On a side note, guys, I just want you to realize that when I got to LA, I had already been in the industry working for probably about 10 years and had a decent resume behind me and a decent amount of work behind me, but it lacked a little bit of star power. It lacked a little bit of that Hollywood, magic dust, whatever you want to call it. So I was willing, after already working in the industry for 10 years and building up a lot of credentials, a lot of credits, I decided strategically to do this again when I got to LA, because in LA, I was just another editor. I was just another guy. I needed something to start making me stand out a little bit more. So that's why I decided to work for free on certain jobs for the reasons I've already laid out. So then I got offered once a Snoop Dogg video, and a Snoop Dogg music video to color grade. And the director was a kind of first time director. He just happened to get Snoop Dogg to be in one of his music videos. And he's like, could you do it? I don't have a lot of money. And I said, absolutely, because I could leverage Snoop Dogg into other jobs. So the second I did that Snoop Dogg video for free, I was offered a ton of other work, and it kept paying off for years to come because I would have Snoop on my reel, I would have Snoop on my website, I would have Snoop everywhere, and I would just market the hell that I worked with Snoop because I leveraged his fame and his cachet to benefit me and to push me forward as a colorist. So then, as other things started coming by, when people start looking at you, they're like, "Oh, he's worked with Snoop Dogg, so he looks like I look much more professional." But really, I was just a guy in a bedroom in, Toluca Lake. It was not, I was in a big facility, but I gave the impression that I was. So that's one reason why you would do free work like that. So after that, you start doing less and less free work, and then at a certain point you just don't do free work anymore unless it's something really significant, or someone you really want to work with, or it's a director you really want to build a relationship with, or a producer or a production company or something along those lines. But at that level, when you're dealing with those higher up levels, generally those people don't ask for you to work for free anymore. It's more when people are starting out. So that's one story. Another story is a friend of mine who's a visual effects artist who wanted to get into the big visual effects houses, but he's starting to build his career. So he would do a lot of free jobs doing visual effects. Now his things were not as much. Well, and of course, anytime you can get a star on your demo reel or be associated with a brand, a company, a production company, a show, a movie, a series, any that has cachet, you want to take advantage of that. So what he did is he would do jobs that would have visual effects shots that were working on famous actors' faces or in the background or shots with these famous actors on it. So he started putting those things on his demo reel. I was guiding him during this process because I was telling him how to do this. So he would do a bunch of little crap shots that, didn't really do anything for his demo reel. But all of a sudden he would put a face on his demo reel. So his demo reel started getting better and better and better. Not particularly like he would do some really high end shots, but the shots that would be predominant in the demo reel would not only just be the high end shots that he would do that had no cachet to it other than the technical aspect, but he would sprinkle in all of these stars and actors and projects that he would work on that might have not been technically the best thing he'd ever done, but it showed that he worked with these people against leveraging their fame, their cachet to move himself forward. So he did a bunch of that, and when he went to get interviewed at Digital Domain, one of the reasons why he got the job and a bunch of other people who were more highly skilled than he was, he admitted this, they said specifically was because he had such a long history of working independently, and because of that, and then also the cachet and having stars on his film, that all helped. And he found that out later after he got in. They're like, yeah, you're the only one that looked like you knew what you were doing. Well, all these other guys might have had cool shots, but none of them had the cachet that yours did. And then also he was building up his IMDb credits. So IMDb, obviously, if nobody knows, it's Internet Movie Database, or IMDb.com, which is the industry standard for where all credits are and stuff. And everybody wants credits on there because that's where people go look you up. So people look me up all the time. You just type in Alex Ferrari on IMDb. I'm generally the number one guy. There are not a lot of other Alex Ferraris doing what I do. And you'll see all my credits from as a director, producer, and so on. So if there's something that can build up your IMDb as well, that's another reason to work for free or very inexpensively to get that thing going. So again, when you're working for free, you have to figure out and ask yourself those questions. What is it going to do for me? Am I going to learn anything? How am I going to leverage this? And how am I going to use the cachet that I might get from this thing to move my career forward with credits, resume, and or demo reel material? Now, again, I'm talking about demo reels and post and stuff like that. But if you're just starting out in production, you just want to associate yourself with amazing people and amazing projects. So PAing on shows or interning on big shows will hopefully open up other doors. And if you can, once you're in those doors, you can start trying to work for free. So let's say you get in the door of a show like 24. I'll use it, before they canceled it. 24 was a huge show, and I knew a lot of people who worked on that show. So an intern would come in, work, and then maybe they'll start PAing, but then they'll start befriending the production design department. So then they would start working for free, maybe off hours, and things like that for them, to the point where they befriend those people, those higher ups in that department, and they go, hey, do you want to come work for us? And all of a sudden now you're not just a PA, but you're a production design PA, or you're an art department PA. And now you're going down that path. And now you're building up your credits. So you have to choose which path you want to go. But this is how you get in, and this is how you start moving and leveraging and growing and building your resume, building your ambiance, not your ambiance, but your cachet as a person in the industry. So if you're in LA, this is a lot easier because there's so many big cachet projects and people that you can work with. But if you take, you work here for 10 years, you go out to a smaller market, all of a sudden you're the big fish because you've worked on all of these other projects. So again, there is benefit to working for free. You just have to know when to do it and why you're doing it. And don't get abused, because there's people who will abuse the hell out of you. Trust me. I know this from a fact. Anytime I've ever worked with interns working for me, I've always taken good care of them and always tried to teach them and help them. And in one of my past episodes I just did with one of my former interns, Brant Surson, who has gone on to direct, 3 or 4 big features and worked on propaganda films with David Fincher and all this stuff. He was my intern, and I made sure to teach him everything I could teach him, so he wasn't just running around getting coffee for me. So I always try to help as much as I can when I have interns working for me. So remember, just figure out why you're doing it and if it makes sense for you. But those are just some tips on how to know when to work for free. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you wanted to check out the show notes, head over to indiefilmhustle.com/040. And again, please head over to filmmakingpodcast.com and leave us an honest review of the show. It really helps us out a lot. So keep that hustle going, keep that dream alive, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.